And welcome to lesson 1.3 about sales tax. Now there's more than one type of tax in the world. Sales tax is one, income tax is another. Sales tax is one that we probably see the most often when we go to a store and there's a tag and says what price it is. That's not going to be the final price that we pay because first we're going to have to add taxes to that. So in our fill in the blanks it says in many cases taxes are added to arrive at the total price. Or sometimes I say price after taxes. Sometimes I use the words total price, sometimes I talk about price after taxes. Taxes are calculated as a percentage. I'll just put the percentage symbol of the price paid. Or instead of price paid, sometimes I say price before taxes. So when you go to a store and you see the tag, that would be the price before the taxes. Then we calculate the tax as a percentage of the price, and then we add the two together. All Canadians pay a goods and services tax. So the G of GST stands for goods, and the S is services. Most provinces also charge a Provincial Sales Tax, PST. Provincial Sales Tax. This amount changes from province to province. So I'll just have to say that if you get a question and it doesn't say what province you're in, then you can assume Manitoba, because that's where we are. Manitoba will be our default. So instead of saying, hey, how come you didn't tell me? Just say, hey, assume it's Manitoba if I don't say anything. Now there are a few provinces that have combined together the GST and the PST into a single thing called a Harmonized Sales Tax. So the H is Harmonized. Sales Tax. So if we look at this here, Alberta has 0 provincial sales tax, but they still have the PST. Nunavut and Northwest Territories are similar to that. Actually, Quebec is not correct. I'm going to get you to fix this. So Quebec, it's not 0%. Theirs is 9.975%. So in this column here, what I'd like you to do is let's change that percentage into a decimal because we're going to have to do that with our calculations. So 0% is still 0. 7%, if we change it to a decimal, we have to move it over 2 spots or divide by 100, so we get 0.07. You can put a 0 out front if you want, but it's not necessary. So we get 0.07, 8%, 0.08, 5%, 0.05. Again, 0% is just 0. Now the 9.975%, we move it over here, it's 0.0975. Okay, now for GST, it's 5% every place, so that would be 0.05. And we don't have to do that a whole bunch of times, it's always the same. Now these are the list of provinces that have a harmonized sales tax. So Ontario, they added together. Now notice in Manitoba, we have 8% provincial sales tax and 5% GST. So 8 plus 5, this would be equivalent of a total of 13%. And if we go over to Ontario, theirs is also 13%. So Ontario, you don't see it as 2 separate taxes, but still it would add up to the same amount. So as a decimal, this would be 0.13. New Brunswick, actually all the rest of these would be 15%, which as a decimal is 0.15. Okay, so you can refer to this chart when you do your questions, and if you've filled in the decimals, then it kind of saves you one step. Let's try our first example. It says there's a furniture store in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and it's selling a bedroom suite. The list price for the suite is $1,599. Now, list price really means the same thing as the price before tax. So, and that's $1,599, right? What will the total cost be including GST and PST? Okay, so the first thing we can say is, all right, the price before tax is $1,599. Now there's two taxes to figure out. It doesn't matter which order we do it. Why don't we start off with the GST first? So the GST is going to be 5% of $1,599. That's the same thing if I say 5% and I write it as a decimal, it would be 0.05 of, it's kind of interesting when we change from English to math, of is multiplication. So we're going to say 0.05 times 1599. And then we get, if you check that in your calculator, I think you get $79.95. Now that one worked out exactly, but I'm just going to write a little note here that for this, for the GST and then we're going to do the PST right away, we round these if necessary. Round to nearest cent. If necessary. When that came out of the calculator, there were no digits after the 5, and that's in the cents place. All right, so our next one is the PST. So the PST in Saskatoon is actually also 5%, isn't it? So if we look it up, so it's going to be 5%. Oh, well, you know what? Instead of having to run it into the calculator, it's going to be exactly the same. It's going to be 0.05 times 1599, and I already did that once, so I know it's going to be $79.95. Okay, so the price before tax, $15.99, and then we have to add two taxes. So here are the three things that we're going to have to add together. We're going to have to add this number, which is the price before the tax, the GST, and the PST. So when I add those all together in my calculator, I'm just going to put like a big plus here. I'm going to say those ones add up to 1758.90, and it is dollars, so I'll put it out there, and I'll even label this one. This one is my total after taxes. Okay, so that's the first example. Let's try the second example. It says, David lives in Ontario. If he buys 5 plants for $5.99 each, what is his total cost after taxes? Okay, so it's a little bit different in the first one. In this case, they give you the initial price. And this one, we have to sort of figure it out. If he's buying 5 plants, so 5 plants, and each one is $5.99. If I multiply that out, I will get $29.95. So that's going to be my total before the taxes, right? Now let's figure out our taxes. Now Ontario has the Harmonized Sales Tax. So if I say the Harmonized Sales Tax for Ontario, let's just go back and check it what it is. I think it is 13%. So I'm going to use 0.13. So I say, okay, Harmonized Sales Tax will be 0.13 multiplied by 29.95 is equal to $3.89. Now again, I need to add together my total before the tax, and in this case it's only one tax, and I will get $33.84. And that represents my total after the taxes. What is this total cost after the taxes? Total after tax. Maybe I'll put a nice little box around and say, there's my answer. Okay. Example number 3. Cindy buys a washing machine for $900, a dryer for $650, and a microwave for $75. What is her cost before taxes? And then later, if she lives in Manitoba, what is her final cost? So the cost before taxes. Well, I just need to add these up. So I'm going to say it's going to be 900 plus 650 plus 75. So if I add those up, I think I get $1,625. Now, what is the cost? What is her final cost after taxes? Well, in Manitoba, we have 2 taxes. We have our GST, which is 5% of that. So I'm going to say 0.05 times 1625, which gives me 81.25. And then my PST, which is 8% or 0.08 times 1625. So that would be equal to 130. And now I kind of conveniently line them all up in here, but I need to add together my cost before the taxes and then my 2 taxes. So I'm going to add those 3 up together and I will get $1,836.25. All right, I think you're ready to try some of the questions in the worksheet, and I will see you in class.